Hey guys, I hope you guys are good today. I'm here to preview the semi-final, and then I'm going to go into more deep the semi-finals of the French Open. Then I'm going to go into more detail on the GOAT debate and how possibly the Nadal Djokovic match could be impacting the GOAT debate, right? So we've got around 22 hours now, and the French Open semi-finals will be upon us. So, firstly, I'll go over quickly the Zverev Tsitsipas match, right? Because I think you want to hear about Nadal Djokovic, right? So let's quickly go through that, right? I really just think the head-to-head is in favor of Tsitsipas. What is it, 5-2? Zverev won the last one in Acapulco. Tsitsipas won in Madrid on clay. Never really had a typical clay match because Madrid, it's very different. And I think they're similar players. They've got a decent serve. They've got a similar, maybe a bit similar to Federer, but not quite. They like to attack, shorten the point. Tsitsipas's advantage is on a slower court, he has a big swing off the forehand, and the kind of forehand that can really hit through any kind of a court. And just like the power, like he benefits more from a slow court because like the big motion of the forehand, the big swing, and the time to set up and really generate power to hit through any court. Whereas Zverev doesn't have a shot like that. Rather, Tsitsipas does. But Zverev, he's got more consistent off both sides, and the serve's about equal. I'd give it to Zverev slightly, but as I was saying, on a slow court, Tsitsipas has more time to set up off that big forehand and the big swing. And once he gets that time, he can hit through any court. And any defender, I would say Zverev doesn't have a weapon like that, right? Um, Other than that, their defense is about equal, their serve's about equal, their consistency, shot tolerance in the rallies. Maybe net play, I would give it to Tsitsipas a bit, which could help on clay when you've got to get through the defender on the slow surface in the point. So when you're trying to get past them and then you hit a good shot and then you just need to end it, and it's hard to finish it to get through them, that volley to finish it, which Tsitsipas has, is an advantage. Uh, as far as like outside Nadal and Djokovic, these two have had the best clay court seasons. Because look at the three Masters of 1000. Nadal's won one Rome. Madrid is gone to Zverev and Monte Carlo to Tsitsipas. So they deserve to be up there with the top four this clay court season by one each of them winning one of the three Masters of 1000, which is all Nadal did. Djokovic doesn't have a Masters of 1000, so they deserve to be there. But Tsitsipas was more on a slower type of a court. And then a faster court in Madrid at altitude is where Zverev has got his Masters of 1000. You would say this court is at sea level, so it's more like Monte Carlo. But then on the other hand, they're playing on a hot day where it's going to be 27 Celsius or 80 Fahrenheit. So then that could push the court more like Madrid. But the sea level and the ball makes it more like Monte Carlo, and then the heat takes it to more like Madrid. It could be in the middle between the two. And like I said, what I would say is outside Madrid, Zverev didn't do anything amazing. Tsitsipas, he was in the final in Barcelona and really pushed Nadal, had a match point there. That's in addition to Monte Carlo. He's won the 250 in Lyon, whereas Zverev, it's just basically. And then, at Rome, Tsitsipas was in the quarterfinals. It came down to 1 or 2 points, so he was on Djokovic's level. He's proved that too. He was proved on Nadal's level at Barcelona. Then he's won Lyon, and he's also got the Masters of 1000 in Monte Carlo, whereas Zverev's success has been mostly centered at one one of the tournaments, Madrid, at altitude, right? I basically think they're similar. They're going to mirror each other's game, but on a slow clay court with all that time to set up, I think that the biggest weapon on the court will be Tsitsipas's forehand. And considering we're on a clay court, and considering that's going to give him all the time in the world to set up, and he's going to have that real weapon that's going to be able to hit through any court and any defender, as long as he's got the time to set up. The clay court will give him the time, and then he'll have that real finishing ability through the forehand. Whereas the Rev doesn't really have that a huge weapon like as good as Tsitsipas's forehand, right? And I would say on a faster court, Zverev, you don't have time to run around. You may not have time to set up for a big forehand. Zverev's more consistent off both sides, maybe serves slightly better. So I'd give it to Zverev. But on this kind of a court where you do have time to set up for that huge forehand and make the most of it, you can even run around your backhand. You can hit more forehands. And it's not about being consistent on what both sides, it's being more about that one big weapon that you have time to run around and hit forehands. And then it's about the ability to, when you have time to set up, can you generate the power to get through a slow clay court to finish? Tsitsipas's forehand does that more than any of Zverev's shots. So I just think that in everything else, they're even, but Tsitsipas's forehand and the power it generates to be able to hit through a clay court and finish points, and then when he's almost finishing to completely end it, a better volley. Based on those two things, I'm going to give it to Tsitsipas. It's going to be either 4 or 5 sets. They're very, very close. But like I said, on the slow court, he's going to have time to set up, hit the forehand, and to end points on a clay court, you need a big weapon to be able to get through the court, and his forehand gets through the court and is able to generate pace when there is none to end points through a slow court. And that forehand does that in a way that that Zverev doesn't really have to that extent. And then, like I said, the volley to finish when you've got the control, when it's hard to end the point because it's clay again. So I'm going to say 4 or 5 sets to Zverev. Now, before I preview the Nadal Djokovic one, what I've really got to say is I've got to talk about how this will affect the GOAT debate, right? Now, firstly, consider this. Whoever wins between Tsitsipas and Zverev, right? We've seen a history of this younger generation when they haven't won the first Grand Slam and they're trying to win it. What happens, right? Well, they get nervous. Look at Thiem Zverev last year, US Open final. They're both nervous. They're saying, "Oh, I'm going to give it to you because I'm too nervous to take it." Zverev, and then Thiem's trying to give it back. Zverev's trying to give it back. They're both too nervous to take it. But usually, as an experienced Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer saying, "You want to give it to me? I'll take it," and then it's gone, right? But because they weren't there, two guys trying to give it to each other back and forth, one of them had to take it. It was Thiem, right? We've seen Thiem 2018 final Nadal, straight sets, clearly nervous, right? When he got one set all, 2019 French Open final, lost 6-1, 6-1. He was nervous, right? We saw Medvedev play an amazing Australian Open, unbeaten at the end of last year, start of this year. Then he loses straight sets to Djokovic. The whole thing about the barrier beating a top guy like Nadal and Djokovic and breaking through against them to win your first Grand Slam, that mental pressure, you can't be at your best. If they're at their semi-final or quarter-final, they can upset a Nadal or Djokovic. They can get hot. They can have that kind of a match, right? But then when you're talking about the pressure of winning their first Grand Slam in a Grand Slam final and dethroning Nadal and Djokovic when they haven't done it, they're not going to be at their best. So what I'm saying, we've seen a long history. Oh, yeah, sorry. Thiem at the Australian Open 2020, he's up 2-1, close to winning. Then he just tanks the 4th or 5th set, hits errors, right? And that's after all these experiences from the French Open 2018, French Open 2019, his 3rd Grand Slam final. still nervous. And then even when he wins the US Open, his fourth Grand Slam final, he breaks through, but he's nervous. He's a bit less nervous than Zverev because it's his fourth final, right? So the point is, even when they're playing each other, this young generation, the Grand Slam final, they're both going to be nervous against each other, but they'll get away with it because they'll both have that. But when they're nervous in a Grand Slam final and they're trying to still break through for their first Grand Slam, and they're not playing another next gen player or a younger player who hasn't won it, what's going to happen? They're going to be nervous. They're going to be wanting to give it away. They're going to have this barrier. But if it's Nadal and Djokovic, they've been there hundreds of times. There won't be any nerves, and they'll just run right over the top of them. If they play each other, they're going to be giving it to each other back and forth, and both fighting in these internal battles like the US Open final. But when they play Nadal, Djokovic, Federer, they're nervous and they're on edge, right? And Nadal and Djokovic is just another match, and they just run right over them. But if it's in a quarter, if it's not about a Grand Slam final, a quarterfinal, semi-final, a final at a Masters 1000, they could get hot. But then this whole barrier of beating a Nadal and Djokovic to win your first Grand Slam final. So for Djokovic or Nadal, they would rather the draw be this way than meeting in the semi-finals, because if they had to beat a Tsitsipas or Zverev in the semi-finals and each other in the final, there's no nerves then from Tsitsipas or Zverev at a semi-final. They can just throw everything out and give them their best possible shot. So then they've got to fight through that. Nadal and Djokovic then face each other in the final. But this way, they face each other in the semi-final, Nadal and Djokovic. This is the real final. And then they get a lesser version of a Zverev or a Tsitsipas with the nerves of trying to break through that mental barrier for their first Grand Slam final. They're not the same as they would be in a quarterfinal or a semi-final. So if you're Nadal and Djokovic, you would rather have Tsitsipas or Zverev in that situation where they've got the nerves of a Grand Slam final and they're breaking through this internal barrier. Rather than the semi-final, there's no pressure, they can give you the best shot. So you'd rather it this way around than the semi-final. You get their best shot, and then you get Tsitsipas or Zverev's best shot, and then you meet each other in the final. No, it's better to play each other in the semi-final, and then in the final, you've got a nervous Zverev or Tsitsipas. You get what I'm saying? But if it's a semi-final, you get their best shot, and then you get each other's best shot. So considering the record these younger guys have had, trying to break through, win their first Grand Slam in a Grand Slam final, and usually playing their worst match, we can be pretty much sure that the winner of this Nadal-Djokovic semi-final, given that they're going to be playing not as Zverev or Tsitsipas in a Masters 1000 final, semi-final, quarterfinal, they're going to be playing them with all these mental battles to win their first Grand Slam and beat them and the pressure that entails. A much lesser version, considering that now we know probably the winner of Djokovic and Nadal, because they'll either be facing that mental battle to not only have their first Grand Slam win it, break through that mental barrier, and then also be one of the first guys to ever beat Nadal at Roland Garros all at once. I mean, even if you've won Grand Slams, many like Federer and Djokovic, to get Nadal at a French Open final when he's never lost, that's a huge barrier. But then when you're trying to win your first Grand Slam in that, it's too much. Now, if it's Djokovic, you may think it's easy, but now you're saying just beating Djokovic with 18 Grand Slams anywhere to win your first Grand Slam, that's a huge mental barrier. And then having to beat him after he's just beaten Nadal, that just builds it to be even worse. So there's a high probability that they're going to be nervous. They're not going to be far from their best. And Nadal and Djokovic are going to be experienced and just have a workmanlike effort and put them away. So from all this, we gather probably the winner of Nadal and Djokovic wins it, right? So considering that that's a high probability, where do we stand on the GOAT debate? So if Djokovic wins, he's at 19 slams, right? 20 slams would be Nadal and 20 for Federer, right? So he's only one behind. Well, he's the favourite to win Wimbledon. And if you've got a Nadal who's in a down state where he feels like he couldn't even win his best Grand Slam, the French Open. He feels shattered. He feels like, how would I even have a chance to win it? He feels at the bottom of his barrel. Then if Nadal's at that state saying, the one thing that I feel like is my sure thing every year, I can't even win there, how will he have confidence to go and win on grass on a hard court? He won't, and he'll have to wait till the French Open next year. And now Djokovic is one behind. So Djokovic is the favourite at Wimbledon, but Nadal coming off the French Open could have been hot. But now he's really the favourite because Nadal's probably his biggest threat. Federer's becoming 40. So then he's already probably tied at 20 each. Then at the US Open, he hasn't been as good as the other ones because he's only won at 3. Nadal's actually been better. But all those years Nadal's won, he won the French Open that year earlier. So if Nadal doesn't have the confidence of winning the French Open, the US Open's gone too. And now it's just Djokovic on a hard court, Nadal with no confidence, Federer at his age. These young guys are getting this mental barrier. He's probably going to win that and then the Australian Open. And do you get what I'm saying? Because now the confidence of Djokovic after beating Nadal at the French Open is crazy. He's coming back for 3 Grand Slams on grass on a hard court. Nadal has the feeling like he can't even win the French Open, his best one. So how is he going to say, well, I can't win the French, but I'll win on grass and hard court? No. If he wins the French, then he feels like now I'm ready for the next challenge a bit harder. And I'm a shot. I've got 4 US Opens. I've done well at Wimbledon. I'm in there with a chance. But if he doesn't feel like he can even win at Roland Garros, he doesn't really have that kind of confidence. And Djokovic is like, after winning all the Grand Slams twice now, 19, one away, and he's his ultimate high, and then just ready to play again on grass at Wimbledon. It's 20, then it's 21 at the US Open, then it's 22 at the Australian Open. Because, again, his biggest threat is Nadal, but Nadal now is on a bad state because he can't even win the French Open. And Djokovic is his absolute highest stage, right? So we could be going back with by the French Open next year. Djokovic has at least 21 to 22, and Nadal's at 20, and now Djokovic is a year younger. He's got 3 of the 4 slams on his surface. So what I'm saying is, if he wins this semi-final, he'll win the final for reasons I explained, and he's won the GOAT debate, right? What about if Nadal wins the French Open? What's going to happen? Well, the problem is Djokovic is going down to, like, if you look at it, like, at the end of 2016, he cut it down to 2. He was 2 slams behind, right? Yeah, 2 behind, right? So then Nadal won 2 slams in 2017, pushed the gap up to 4, right? And then 2018, Djokovic won 2 and Nadal won 1. So then it was 3, right? So it's been going back and forth 2 and 3 forever. And then you saw in 2019, they went back and forth. Djokovic wins the Australian Open. It's down to 2. Nadal wins the French. It's back out to 3. Djokovic, Wimbledon, back to 2 again. Nadal's the US Opens, back out to 3. 2020, Djokovic, the Australian Open, pushes the lead of slams to 2. Nadal just goes to the French and pushes it out to 3. 2021, Djokovic has got the Australian Open. We're back to 2. And then Nadal wins the French Open, let's just say, back out to 3. Do you get my point? Do you get the trend? All that's happening is they're trading Grand Slams. They're getting older. At least if Djokovic could say, I'm getting older, but I'm doing something with my age, I'm actually getting older, but the time is being used to actually get closer, and eventually I'm going to get there. But this is getting to a point where time is getting lost and he's getting nowhere. It's going backwards and forth. 2 slams, 3 slams, 2 slams, another year gone, another year, and I'm getting nowhere, and this is getting hopeless, right? So now he has to go, he's over 34 now, he's pushed out to 3. Nadal has 21 slams, so he's got 3 more to tie and 4 more to beat him. And Nadal's at his absolute high and confident. So now with Nadal winning the French Open, he's now beat Djokovic in the last 3 total matches. Djokovic has even lost the head-to-head, so we can't even use that in the GOAT debate. 3 behind in slams, and then you can't just go and say, "Oh, well, the Grand Slams don't matter. What about weeks at number 1?" Well, if you're saying you're the best player outside the slams, that's why you have weeks at number 1. Djokovic is now no longer ahead in Masters 1,000, so what are you going to say? 250s, 500s, that doesn't work, doesn't have the head-to-head. Never going to catch up with the slams. And like I said, Nadal's 3 ahead. He's now got all this confidence of winning the French Open, right? The last couple of Wimbledons, he made the semi-finals, 2018. If they didn't close the roof, Nadal would have got him. Nadal's going to be in this high from both winning the French Open, beating Djokovic 3 times in a row, being 3 slams ahead, and just coming off a Grand Slam and feeling like, I beat Djokovic 3 times in a row. I'm ready to take him down on another surface. And like I said, 2018, Wimbledon semi-final. Nadal just about beat Djokovic on grass. He's been very close. So he's got a great shot there, but an even better shot at the US Open, even if Djokovic gets him there, because he's won it more than Djokovic. He's got 4 of them. Djokovic has got 3. And with the confidence of winning the French Open, he's got a great chance that even if Djokovic gets him in Wimbledon, he can again push the lead back out to 3. And again, the pattern continues by getting the US Open. So basically, we're either looking at 2 of those different scenarios. Djokovic just loses his head-to-head for the GOAT debate. Djokovic is always in this pattern where he gets it to 2 and it's out to 3, and he's getting older and older and older. And now with the 3 Grand Slam lead for Nadal, right? He's now got confidence and a better chance to go and do something at Wimbledon, and a real great chance at the US Open. Plus the lead's already 3 now. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And then, so he's probably not going to catch him up in the Grand Slams now, Djokovic. He can't say I'm better because of the head-to-head. He can't say, look at my weeks at number 1, I'm better in all the other tournaments, because the next most important, you're not better. So basically, if Djokovic loses this, he's lost the GOAT debate for the reasons that I've said, right? You can't say you're better at all the other tournaments, because the next is the Masters 1,000. You don't have the head-to-head. You're now not going to catch up in Grand Slams. But then I explained the scenario which Djokovic would take Nadal's Roland Garros, be 1 behind, go to Wimbledon, go to a hard court of the US Open. Your biggest rival's got no confidence, right? So I'm saying the GOAT debate is settled right here in this match, the semi-finals of the French Open, and I explain why the winner will go on, because the whole barrier of winning your first Grand Slam final and the pressure, and when these young guys are playing each other, they'll both have this internal barrier. They'll be up and down. But against a Nadal and Djokovic, and then it's even harder to do that. And then to try to win your first slam against Nadal at Roland Garros, when even for Djokovic and Federer, after all their experience, it's an issue. It's not happening. This match is deciding the GOAT debate. So let me preview the match then. I've talked about the GOAT debate, right? Let's look at Djokovic's match against Musetti, right? Musetti plays a similar style as Nadal, but not as good, right? He's got great defense. So Djokovic struggles when he's got to hit through a slow clay court against a good defender, right? If they're a bad defender, it's okay, because if Djokovic's balls are traveling through the court slower, but the guy's chasing after the balls slower, then it makes up for Djokovic's balls being slower, right? But with Musetti, he's defending similar to Nadal. So now he's got to hit for a slow clay court and a great defender. But then when you can match him on defense, which Musetti did, match him on shot tolerance and consistency, say I'm staying here and I can hit shots all day and I'm not going to miss like you. You're a great defender. You're running down everything. It's almost so hard to get by you on clay. I'm doing the same. You're rallying in the shots with consistency and not missing. I'm doing the same. So what does it come down to? Who has that big weapon to end the point? Musetti had the big forehand. Djokovic didn't. And Djokovic can't say, well, you've got more power, but I've got more consistency and better defense. No, Musetti matched him with defense, consistency. So it just came down to who has got the power in the rallies to win the point, and it was Musetti. And Musetti had that big forehand to hit through a clay court in Djokovic's defense. Djokovic could match him with power, and couldn't then say, okay, it's okay, you have more power because I've got more consistency or better defense, because Musetti matched him in those areas and had something extra, the power. And when they're matching each other on defense, consistency on the shot tolerance, but then someone has something extra that you don't have, power and a big forehand to hit through a slow clay court, then you're just overpowered in the rallies. And it was 2 sets to love, but the guy's only like 19. He can't keep up what Nadal and Djokovic did. So he had a game similar to what Nadal did, but he couldn't keep it up. Well, what if Djokovic gets in that situation with Nadal? Nadal will do it even better the first 2 sets by matching a consistency of shot in the rallies defense, but having the big forehand to get through this court and time to set up to hit it. But then Djokovic being matched through defense, through shot tolerance, consistency in the rally, but Nadal having the big forehand to hit through the court and end points. And then, so Nadal's doing everything Djokovic, but has this one extra thing, the ability to end the point. You can't really do much when someone's matching you in all your good areas, but then they're just overpowering you. They have one thing that you just can't create power. So Nadal will do what Musetti did and what he's done in their previous matches, but he'll be able to do it for 5 hours. And he'll do it even better than the first 2 sets. And if Nadal's up 2 sets to love, he's going to crush him. And that's what happens in their matchup on clay. See, when he played Berrettini, Djokovic could say, like, in the rallies, you have more power with your huge forehand, right? But I've got more shot tolerance, so I'm going to have consistency in the rallies, let the rallies go on forever. I don't need to get through the court. I can just push it left and right, move you around. You're bad on defense anyway. You won't be able to handle that. You're only good with power when you can just set up in the middle and hammer it. So if I could move you around, you don't have any kind of defense. So it's not about like getting through a defender like Nadal or Musetti. It's a case like defense is your weakness, so I just need to move you around. That's not you can't do that with Nadal, right? And then what else did he do? Getting back a whole lot of the serves of sorry, I'm just lost his name again. What the guy he was playing in the quarterfinals? Djokovic. I mean, sorry. I don't know. I've just like Berrettini. Sorry about that. Yeah, so Berrettini, right? Like, what he could do is just say, I'm going to get back all your serves deep. You don't have a 1-2 in a short ball. You have to be in a long rally. And if you just hit the ball hard, not only am I getting back your serves, right, I'm forcing you into a long rally, which you don't have the consistency of shot to do. And then you're, even if you hit 2, 3, 4 shots, I'm going to say one more, and then you're going to go for too much because you won't be able to stay in it. So that was the other strategy. Can he do that against Nadal? No. If Nadal's in control, hitting 1, 2, 3 forehands, he'll just hit it all day until he ends the point. Whereas Berrettini, Djokovic can say, you've got more power, but I've got more consistency. So I'll just keep defending and defending and defending, and then you'll get frustrated, you'll go for too much, and you'll hit it out. The other thing I can do, and that's so firstly hitting it deep, forcing you into 50-50 rallies. You can't just hit it hard to the right or left, so you're going to have to take more risks and go for the line. And then you're just going to hit it out. So I'll test your consistency, I'll test your shot tolerance, and I'll beat you that way. And then just by pushing it not too hard, bit to the right and left, your movement's poor, I'll get you that way. I'll make you move with drop shots. But that with Nadal, that can't work. If you just try to play defense and test his shot tolerance and let him hit 1, 2, 3 forehands, it's not like Berrettini. Do you see what I'm saying? He'll keep hitting forehands after forehands until he ends the point, right? So then that won't work. And then moving Nadal around and saying he can't do anything on the run, well, that's a disaster because Djokovic can barely even get the ball through Nadal's defense. That's a huge battle he faces. So with Berrettini, it's a weakness, and you just move him around and he can't handle it. But Nadal, just getting past his defense on a clay court is hard. And then if you defend and say, I'm going to beat him with consistency, let him hit forehands, no, Nadal will hit 1, 2, 3 forehands until it's over. So the thing is, in a Berrettini Djokovic, Djokovic has more consistency and defense, but Berrettini has more power. So Djokovic says, I'm going to just get all your serves back, defend really well, have more time to return serves, more time to play defense and consistency, beat you with consistency, move you around and you won't be able to handle it. And then you're more powerful but more inconsistent, and I'm more consistent. So I'm going to banking you'll miss more, and you'll miss more when I'm getting back all your serves deep, defending really well, and moving you around where you can't handle it. And even though you got more power than me, it won't work because I'll have more consistency. But the thing is, Nadal can match him with the shot tolerance, the consistency, and the defense. So now it just comes down to Nadal having everything Djokovic has as far as the defense, the shot tolerance, the consistency in the rally. But now this power is an extra thing Djokovic doesn't have. Instead of Djokovic, Berrettini, it's like Berrettini, the power, Djokovic, the consistency. This time it's Nadal, Djokovic, the defense, consistency, Nadal, the power, Nadal, that big forehand weapon to end the point in the rallies, which there will be long rallies, and that big forehand weapon that he's going to have time to set up to finish the point. And Djokovic can match him on the defense and consistency in the rally, but not a huge, powerful forehand that you can get through a slow clay court and through a great defender, which Nadal will be able to do to him, and he won't be able to do to Nadal. Also, Nadal will get back, and then how he returned Berrettini serves deep and forced him into a rally, and Berrettini can't be in it. Well, Nadal, a rally on clay, come on. Who's better in the world than that? Whereas Berrettini can't do it at all. So do you see what I mean? One matchup, it's a guy with more power versus a guy with more consistency. This one, it's a match with two players with defense consistency, but one player the power to end the point with that big weapon like Berrettini has, Nadal's forehand, and then Djokovic just missing that. And he can't like with Berrettini, substituted with defense and consistency and say, I've got that and you don't, because Nadal has that. But he also has something Djokovic doesn't have, a huge weapon and a forehand. So when you're better in one area of the game and another guy's better in another area, you can focus on your area and win. But when all your strong areas, the other guy has it, like defense, consistency in the rally, they both have it. But then now Nadal has something Djokovic doesn't have, a big forehand to hit through a clay court and a weapon to get through any court or any defender. Whereas when Djokovic is in the 50-50 rallies, he struggles to hit the ball through a clay court and through Nadal's defense, whereas Nadal has time to set up, hit forehands, can hit through any slow court and any defender. And then considering before you look at that, they're already matching each other with defense and consistency in the rallies, but then Nadal has this extra thing, a huge forehand and ability to end the point. For me, that's what's going to decide this match. And for me, it's going to make Nadal the GOAT. And another thing is what Djokovic likes to do on a grass or a hard court to Nadal is he wants to say, like, I've got a better serve than you, so I'll start the point ahead first, second serve, right? And then you're behind the baseline, I'm inside the court, I can end it, right? Second serve, I'll attack your second serve. Now I'm in control of the rally. You're behind the baseline. I'm in. It's a faster court, easier to end the point, and I'm inside the baseline. Whereas on clay, Nadal gets back, he serves deep, forces him into rallies. And now they're two long rallies with both guys doing well in the rallies, great at defense, but Nadal the ability to hit through the court to end the point in the 50-50 rallies, and Djokovic lacking that. And then when Djokovic tries to attack his second serve, Nadal can still make it a 50-50 rally. When Djokovic serves, Nadal can get it deep, a 50-50 rally. Both guys are defending great. Both guys are not missing. Who can hit the ball through this slow court and a great defender? Well, Nadal's forehand can do that. Djokovic doesn't have the weapon. And then, of course, you've got the top spin. So on clay, the top spin goes higher up. It's causing a problem. And Djokovic is having to hit all these balls around the head and neck and all of this. Whereas that's something that Nadal's going to benefit the most on this court. And Djokovic doesn't have that either. But what I'm really and guys, just looking at the Rome, Like, there's been years Djokovic won in Rome but lost at Roland Garros at the French Open, right? Because it's slower and it's higher bouncing, which suits Nadal. Rome is faster and lower bouncing, better court, and it's easy to beat Nadal on clay in best of three. And that back area behind the baseline, Nadal likes to stand back to defend to make it impossible to get it past him. He's got more space there at the French Open than he does in Rome. So for all those reasons, higher bounce, slower court, more space for Nadal behind the baseline, right? For those reasons, it's why Djokovic can be good enough to win at Rome, but not win at the French Open the same year. But then on this year, what we're seeing that Djokovic, even though he's better at Rome, he hasn't been good enough to beat him this year. So for me, a win for Djokovic at Rome in a close match equals a close loss at French Open. But a close loss at Rome equals a bigger, more decent sized loss at Roland Garros. Whatever it is in Rome, it's going to be better for Nadal and worse for Djokovic at the French Open. And I think that's part of the reason why what we saw, like how it was closer at Rome this year compared to the French Open last year, because of those reasons to do with the court that I mentioned. Also, it was really cold and hard to generate pace and get through the court due to it being October, so it made it even slower there and harder for Djokovic on those issues. So that's it. But then it's warmer this year, but it's going to be late in the day, sort of starting around 6 p.m. French time, maybe ending around 10. So it's going to be 27, 80 Fahrenheit, but then it's going to be cooling sort of down. So for me, perfect conditions for Nadal. It's still not cold, but it's not quite hot or really that warm either in the middle. So it's warm enough that Nadal gets the bounce, but not fast enough where Djokovic can say maybe he's playing a bit like a fast clay court towards hard court, and I can get past Nadal's defense more. So it's not that fast, and they're a slower ball now than the past, right? And then it's not the middle of the day, so it's not extremely hot. So it's cooling down a bit. So it is a bit faster, but just enough fast enough for Nadal to have the top spin, but not fast enough that it's like the fastest possible clay court middle of the day heat, and it can be more like a hard court, and Djokovic has a better chance to get through the court. Won't be that fast. Will be slow enough that Nadal has that advantage, but not so slow like last year where the top spin was eliminated. Still be warm enough, probably 75, 23 Celsius to get the top spin, but it won't be like they're playing on a hot day that it's more of a faster clay court and easier for Djokovic to get through the court. It won't be that fast, but it will be fast enough that Nadal will still get that top spin. So I'm going to say 4 sets for Nadal, but I think if Djokovic doesn't win the first set, with all their history, the Djokovic hasn't beat him for 5 years on clay, and all these losses and what happened to the French Open. If Nadal gets the first set, and considering his other matches, right, where he won the first set, Nadal, he just blew the guy away with confidence at the end, right? That could happen if Nadal gets the first set. With that kind of confidence, like he blows guys away. Djokovic thinking about his past losses on clay, here we go again. It could be a blowout if Djokovic loses the first set. Djokovic wins the first set, it's going to be a battle, a close match. Probably 55, 60% Nadal win and, 40, 45 to Djokovic, but it's going to be a battle. But Nadal gets the first set, could be a blowout. The only thing that concerns me with Nadal in this match is he's been a bit up and down, like Cameron Norrie, up and down the first half of the match, on fire the second half of the match. And then Sinner, same, up and down first half, on fire the second half of the match. Schwartzman up and down a lot of the match, on fire the end. So this on fire at the end of the match, like if he wins the set, first set he could blow it out with that, and Djokovic getting down on himself, saying, here we go again, that could happen, right? But if Djokovic wins the match, it'll be a close battle and it'll be a long battle. But this up and down from Nadal, and we saw it in Rome, where Nadal plays at a very high level, It's close, but Nadal's best is better than Djokovic's best, so it's 7-5. But then this whole up and downness, the downside of it from Nadal came in. So now Djokovic is playing the same level of consistency throughout the match, but Nadal's best is being better than Djokovic's best on clay. So in the first set, you see that Nadal's best better than Djokovic's best, but they're both at a high level. But then Nadal's consistency drops right off and drops to a very low level. But Djokovic keeps his level and consistency just a bit below Nadal's best. And then when Nadal's game dropping off, Djokovic destroys him in the second set because he's only just a bit better when they're both at their best. And then so if they're both at their best, Nadal's just a bit better, and Nadal's game drops right off. He's destroyed in a set. Then Nadal can just swing it, say, I'm so much better than you. I'll swing it back to my absolute best again. And now my best is better than your best. So I'll win another close set. So Nadal's best and Djokovic's best versus each other, 2 sets. Nadal wins 2 close sets. But the thing is, Djokovic keeps the level for the full 3 sets. So in the set Nadal didn't keep the level, then what do we have? We have Djokovic going over the top. So we're seeing a bit of inconsistency for Nadal in the start of these matches. So that's one area of concern for Nadal, which could give Djokovic a chance. But how he's played at the end of the matches and how we saw with the sets, they were both at their best. Nadal at a better level, but the problem was Djokovic was more consistent for all 3 sets, which meant when Nadal's game dropped, Djokovic has got him. So that's the one concern here, the inconsistency. But other than that, everything's looking good for Nadal, and I'm saying he's going to win it in 4 sets. Just because of like Djokovic is going to really want it, how he felt humiliated, like from what happened last year, how he did better in Rome. He's going to have this fire and he's going to say, you're not doing this to me again. And that's going to get him a set. And then the fact that Nadal's been a bit up and down, maybe in his downs he'll get a set too. But then overall, for the reasons I said, mostly the fact that they both got similar defense, consistency in the rally, but Nadal just has that forehand to get through the court, and Djokovic's defense, and Djokovic doesn't really have it in the same way. So I'm going for Nadal in 4 sets, but I really think the all-time GOAT is determined in this match. So that's it. I've got a Tsitsipas Nadal final. I'll preview that one for you in a couple of days. So be back here for that video. Subscribe, bell notification, thumbs up. Have a great day or night. And I'm going to try to interview Nadal if he's won the French Open at the end of the French Open. And I'm trying to get Roger Federer for an interview before Wimbledon. So be back for all that. But my final preview of the French Open in a couple of days, be back for that. And after the French Open, I'll also be doing an updated video on the GOAT debate, where we stand there. So be back for all this stuff and be back for my preview of the French Open final in a couple of days. Subscribe, thumbs up, bell notification. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in a couple of days. Bye for now. Bye, guys. Thanks for being with me.